Morelli now. A couple of adjustments being done on the grid before they actually can get underway. Of course, took the win at Misano. It's the only win of the season so far, but Marco Morelli throughout the entire weekend at Misano shown once again he was able to match the pace of Brian Uriarte. And even in the second race, he had that long lap penalty that needed to be served. He was still able to fight and put in a good pace at the front.
He was, yeah. Morelli doing very well. From Aragon onwards, really, he's been on a streak of 3 consecutive podiums at the moment. We'll hope to make it 4, starting from the front row. Like Rios, if he can get alongside Rios and Uriarte into turn 1, he's got a great chance of continuing that run.
Yeah, he's got a great chance. And here is Zem Matani, also chilling on the grid. A little wave to the camera as well. Zem Matani, another rider recently, just as we were arriving at the circuit this weekend, who got announced for Moto3 next year too. He'll be joining the Honda Team Asia squad. And well, he's looked strong this season, I think it's fair to say. Not in the championship running really heading into this round, but nonetheless still a solid season. He's known for being a real consistent rider and a rider you can really rely on as a team.
Absolutely, and it was his best starting grid position in Junior GP, so a very good week for Matani, obviously with the Moto3 announcement, and now this, very much in podium contention. Yeah, very much in podium contention. You can see the 5-minute board now raised, and that just informs teams not got too much longer to make adjustments. Then, of course, they'll get warned at 3 minutes, and then we can start looking towards the warm-up lap. Now, sitting on the grid as well, the number 9, Veda Pratama. He's looked good this year, starting from that second row of the grid on the Astra Honda Racing Team machine. Well, Veda Pratama, he'll be joining Matani at Honda Team Asia next year. And, well, you've got to say, with that signing already in the bag heading into these final 2 rounds, you've not really got much to worry about in terms of finding the right for next year. So now it's all-out attack, and you can just push, have some fun out there. Pressure's off, the future's secured for both Matani and Pratama now, so I say go out, have fun, be aggressive, take the fight to the front runners. Obviously, they won't want to mess up any championship battle. They'll want to try and stay clear of that, but if the win's available, go for it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what folds in this one. Rico Salmela, though, you can see get well soon to Yambias, of course, racing for the Australia Lithia team in Moto2, in the Moto2 European Championship. But for Salmela, it was a difficult Misano round, to put it lightly. He crashed out in race 1, as we've seen in our flashback to the last weekend, but then following race 2, he was then later disqualified, and that was due to a technical infringement. So sadly for Salmela, 0 points scored in the last round, and now a lot of work to do because he's right on the back foot compared to what he was heading into Misano.
It was a difficult weekend at Misano, and that's the reason he's now 62 points back. He is second in the championship, so he can keep the fight going if he can get ahead of Uriarte. Some good news for the Finnish rider was he was confirmed to be going to Moto3 next year as well.
And so is his teammate, Casey O'Gorman. He'll be joining racing on the Honda as well next year in the 58 squad. So he'll be looking forward to that one as well. He impressed earlier on in the season, the Moto2 World Championship, as the 3-minute board is raised. And once again, showing the Junior GP class really it can be as fast and as competitive as the Moto3 World Championship. The front runners in this class really, really are something else. As Evan Belford now looking strong, looking confident, I think it's fair to say. And well, luckily for him, a P8 start and a solid place to start this race.
Very solid. Best of the season for Belford, and he'll be hoping he can convert that into a top 10. He was in the top 10 at Misano. He was 7th in race 1. If he can continue that, it will be a very strong end to the season for the number 52.
And not to mention, there's Moto3 wildcards they had earlier on in the year, of course. But for Junior GP, after we left the circuit yesterday, we had quite a few notifications coming through, and that was with the amount of penalties that have been given out. And for the likes of Sylvain Menzi, Adrian Cruces, Leonardo Abruzzo, Lucas Brown, Lance Romara, and Uchime, they'll all be starting from the back of the grid, while Singapong has been handed the back of the grid penalty in 2 long laps. And not to mention the fact that Enzo Ballon, Moniani have a back of grid of 1 long lap, and Christian Daniel Jr. just a long lap to serve. So plenty of penalties to get through in this one, and plenty of riders are going to be starting out of position and going to have to fight their way through the field of riders that maybe they're not used to racing.
Yeah, when you obviously get a back of the grid penalty, you're going to be starting obviously well down from where you would expect. So for, as you mentioned, the whole host of riders who have been given that and the long lap as well. It will be very difficult for them to fight their way back through the field. But those without the long lap, perhaps if they can latch onto the group in front and make quick progress, there's a possibility of scoring some points.
Now we just have a look at Leonardo Zani, and he'll be looking to match Brian Uriarte, who looks to take the race win this time around. Will he be champion after this one? Let's find out. So here we are on the grid. We are ready and raring to go. It is going to be Brian Uriarte, your championship leader, on pole position. Jesus Rios and Marco Morelli alongside. Zen Matani, Veda and Rico Salmela take up row 2, while Casey O'Gorman, Evan Belford and Joel Esteban start from the 3rd row of our grid. Zani rounds out our top 10 with Dodo Boggio starting from P11 alongside Gonzalez, as Hekam Danish and Ramstoffer go from P13 and 14 alongside Pugliese. Micheleon goes from P16 with Nicholas Farkas joining him for company. Meanwhile, Bertola, Christian Daniel Jr. and Yetze goes from row 7. Sean Rock, Trot and Adrian Cruces goes from row 8, while Abruzzo, Evan Belford, Singapong, Solomon Mountzi Uchimi, Monu Yane and Tamara and Lucas Brown round out our grid. Plenty of penalties to get through. The back couple of rows all have penalties to serve in this one as we head out for our warm-up laps now. Of course, just one warm-up lap here today, and that's thanks to the glistening sunshine that we've been treated to. Thursday, when we arrived, there was some private testing that took place, and of course, there was some mixed conditions in the morning for them. The second session there as well, a little bit tricky. Not too many laps were completed on the Thursday by the majority of the riders. Friday, a little bit better in terms of temperature. But again, this Barcelona circuit is known for being a low grip track, and in the morning it takes a while to get temperature into that track surface.
It does. It's a very low grip track. You have any racing series here, 2-wheel or 4-wheel, and it's all about, for the most part, tyre management. Those who can look after their tyres for the full race distance will likely come to the fore at the crucial time at the end of the race.
Yeah, it's a game of chess almost. You need to get yourself in that perfect position for the latter half of the race without destroying your tyres. So certainly the first couple of laps, we might see a dash at the front, and then it will settle out a little bit, and then we'll expect to see one final push towards the latter half. But of course, we have 14 laps of action coming up, a nice race distance as well. You can just see the air and track temp. Not too windy as well today, so perfect conditions for a race, albeit slightly cold. Turn 5, one of the trickiest corners that we have on the calendar, especially in November. No matter what championship it is, as you'll have a look now at the championship standings, 62, 63 and 63 are the top 4. But no matter what championship comes here, especially at this time of year, Turn 5 is known for catching out quite a few riders.
Turn 5, yeah, it's one of the, well, after Turn 2, it's the first left-hander for a long time. And the 2 corners before it are very long right-handers. So you don't use that side of the tyre for a while. It's heavy braking, it's downhill, it's a very tricky corner at the best of times, let alone when it's a bit chilly, a bit colder than you would like.
Yeah, let alone when you're racing in November. It's one of the challenges of Junior GP. Perfect experience for the future. Brian Uriarte pulls into pole position, pulls into his slot. And well, he's looking calm, he's looking confident. It's exactly what we've seen all season long. And that's how he's managed to put himself 62 points clear of his rivals. Rico Salmela is going to look to put a stop to this one. Tension already building on the grid. Junior GP race 1 is just moments away. The green flag waves at the back. The red lights are about to appear on. The revs rise and the lights go off, and we are racing. Junior GP race 1. It's a great start from Marco Morelli, but it's going to be Brian Uriarte at the moment who leads the charge on the run to turn 1. Having the inside line though, Jesus Rios looking up the inside. Casey O'Gorman also alongside Brian Uriarte, who's going to go and drop about to 4th position, maybe even lower than that. Joel Esteban, meanwhile, has hit the front. Now attacked by Marco Morelli. Has a look, thinks better of it. Esteban wide. That's going to affect his line through the long turn 3. It's just being nice and patient on the tyre. Brian Uriarte, he's down to P6. Perhaps not the start he would have been hoping for. Now Morelli looking for another attack down the inside at turn 4. And well, he's not unable to make that move work this time around. He slots back in 2nd position as we head to turn 5, and now he is ahead of Joel Esteban.
He is, yeah. It was a great start from Morelli and Esteban. We see O'Gorman on the inside of turn 5 on Esteban, looking to get into an early P2. Perhaps part of this strategy that we were talking about. There are different strategies at play in Barcelona. You can go really fast at the start and perhaps have to manage at the end, or you can manage throughout the race and be quick at the end.
And of course, Brian Uriarte, he's got a 62-point lead. He's telling the riders behind just to follow him through. That looked to be Jesus Rios he was telling them to follow. But nonetheless, Brian Uriarte is a 62-point lead in the championship. The last thing you want to do is make a mistake or get involved in a silly incident on this opening laps. Perhaps taking things a little bit easier than what we would normally see. He's got Rico Salmela just ahead of him, second position in the championship heading into this one. But Marco Morelli at the front of things, a 14-lap dash, and will Casey O'Gorman slot into second, Joel Esteban in third, and well, Veda Pratama leading this next group of riders. Marco Morelli has a slight bit of daylight for him.
He does, but this is a long run into turn 1, so although it's about 4 attempts, 3.5 attempts at the moment, that could be swallowed up on this run down into turn 1. It is a very compact group at the moment, although on that shot, Morelli very clear. He should have enough heading into the braking zone at turn 1.
Putting the hammer down on the run to turn 1 is Marco Morelli. Meanwhile, the group behind is 3 or 4 wide as Jesus Rios looks up the inside now. And now it's Brian Uriarte actually releases the brakes, gets ahead of them on turn 1, flips it to turn 2, and now second position for the number 51. A nice position. Now we can begin to chip away at Marco Morelli's lead. I'm sure he's got a strategy for this race. And now Casey O'Gorman looking up the inside as well. It's something that we're going to be seeing throughout the day, is every single rider's key rivals are not going to be afraid to release the brakes, send one up the inside.
They're not. They're going to fight hard. They want to keep this championship going to Valencia if they can, to have a small chance of beating Uriarte's Rios on the inside. Again, turn 5. It's side by side. Uriarte just holds it around the outside. Great riding from number 51.
Yeah, some great riding there. Defensive skills, not afraid to lean it on the top of the number 54. And well, a few riders dropping back. Adrian Cruzes already up into P13. He's dropped down to the Junior GP class from the Moto2 European Championship. And that's just to get some running for his move to the Moto3 World Championship next season. Of course, he got a penalty in qualifying, and now he's beginning to work his way through the order. So don't be unexpected to see him up the order. Evan Belfer as well, further back in the shot. Rico Salmela launching the move down the inside of Joel Esteban. And well, this front group, it's a chaotic start, but you have to say everyone just trying to get themselves within those top 5, within those top 3 places.
Trying to get into the perfect position to not be swallowed up on the long straight, that's crucial. But also to be able to defend from behind and attack at the same time. It's on this long run, I'll keep saying it. It's vital to be in the right position. You don't necessarily want to be in front unless you have a big gap. Morelli, 4.5 attempts, 5 attempts clear, so he'll be okay heading into turn 1. But behind, it will be a big gaggle of riders.
Into turn 1, we head again. Joel Esteban right on the inside there. You would suggest he's going to take second position. Can he make the move work though on Jesus Rios? Yes, he can, and he makes that move work. But Jesus Rios attempted to go around the outside towards turn 2, and he's made that one work, made it stick. And now towards turn 3, here we go, fastest lap of the race. Certainly, if you're not first position championship, we know how close second to 5th is in the championship standings. You're not going to want to see Marco Morelli storm into the distance. There's going to be a sense of urgency, and Brian Uriarte, now he's outside the top 5.
Yeah, it will be a sense of urgency if you're fighting for P2. Uriarte at the moment content with P6. You would suspect he's not going to take too many risks at all, especially when it's colder. He doesn't want to lose the big advantage he has in the championship fight.
Yeah, certainly. At the moment, it's just the case of getting solid points on the board and seeing how things look after race 2, you would suggest, unless it's a chance for him to save some tyres, sit behind a couple of riders, and then go on full-on attack mode. Because Marco Morelli's pushed hard in his opening laps. He set a great Sector 2, in fact, the best Sector 2 of the entire race, but he's got Jesus Rios behind him, pushing hard with Joel Esteban, Rico Salmela just ahead of Casey O'Gorman as well, his teammate. Now, Veda Pratama is a little bit of daylight forming there between 6th and 7th. So Pratama and Danish are going to have to get the hammer down pretty soon if they want hopes of sticking on to this front group.
They are, and sticking onto the front group will be crucial if they want to fight for the podium. They will gain back up through the final couple of corners, heading down to turn 1. We just see a yellow flag out at turn 10. So we'll just see who that is, if anyone has come down. But yeah, the run into turn 1, it's number 28.
Yeah, that's going to be Kevin Farkas. Of course, Brian Uriarte's teammate, he's down. That's a crash at turn 10. So perhaps just losing the front on the entry. We spoke about how tricky it is. That corner has been reprofiled a couple of times in recent years. Now it's much more flowing, but still super tricky as a braking zone. Now, back into the podium places is Brian Uriarte. I think that's something we're going to say a couple of times in this race as well. Looks to make a move towards turn 4, and this is going to be on the run to turn 1. This is the race start. You can just see how close things was. Brian Uriarte on the conventional racing line, just trying to keep himself out of harm's way because he don't want to get too close to anyone as he just slots in behind Jesus Rios there towards turn 2.
It was a sensible start from Uriarte. If he couldn't keep P1, stay out of the way, stay out of trouble as much as you can. We see it at the front. The gap between Morelli and Rios has closed massively over the last couple of laps. Just a tenth and a half now, and that means Morelli will be in the firing line heading through into turn 10 and on the run into turn 1 with the long straights.
Yeah, over the last couple of laps, it's been Jesus Rios closing in a couple of tenths, but the new best race lap coming the way of Joel Esteban. So don't count Esteban out just yet. Of course, a super experienced rider, previously racing in the World Championship, was teammates with David Alonso at one point as well, so plenty of experience in the Aspar box in his time. Casey O'Gorman looking for an event move, and Rico Samel should say looking for an event to move up the inside towards turn 11. With 11 laps remaining, we're coming towards the end of this next lap. And well, it's now going to be a change lead pretty soon on the run to turn 1, you would suggest. Slipstream so important. You can see confirmation of some of our penalties coming out.
Yeah, the slipstream into turn 1 with the gap around a tenth and a half between Morelli and Rios. Morelli will be swallowed up by the number 54. We'll see him getting closer and closer throughout this long run. Uriarte sets the fastest lap of the race. He is going to, well, he's defending from O'Gorman at the same time, but he's looking to get past Rios on the braking at turn 1, goes into P2 behind Morelli, who was able to hold the lead.
I nearly thought Brian Uriarte was going to have a go at the lead there, but well, he sorted back into second position, thought better of it, and now perhaps attack at turn 4. He had a double slipstream along the main straight, and that certainly seemed to help the number 51 machine. He doesn't look up the inside, and that's because Jesus Rios is balanced on the way of Casey O'Gorman behind, so that's going to be the move at this corner. He comes towards turn 5 again. Luckily, there's not been too many incidents. They'll have their tyres up to temperature now. They'll know what track conditions are like as well. As Casey O'Gorman now trying to fend off Joel Esteban. Rico Salmello, I've not seen too much yet from him as he looks to be attacked from Veda behind. But Salmello, don't count him out just yet. He had two poor races over at Mazzano. No points scored there. Of course, one of them due to disqualification, but nonetheless, it's a crucial round for him, and he really needs to get points in the bag if he wants any hopes of keeping his champion hopes going to Valencia.
He really does, and he's in a good position right now, obviously in the top 6, although this group is changing all the time and heavy braking. He's in a good position. Obviously, for the championship, he needs to get ahead of Uriarte and start taking points out of the number 51 lead. That will be tricky, given the form of Uriarte throughout the season so far. And obviously, heading through the final couple of corners, Uriarte was less than a tenth behind Morelli at the last sector point. It's opened up a little bit, but a good chance for number 51 to move into P1 at the start of this lap.
It's a 16-wheeler at the front, the lead group being 8 riders. Brian Uriarte had to look behind him there in the final sector, and you have to say, he looks like he's going to be trying to take the lead on the run to turn 1 this time around. Plenty of riders up the inside, though. Who can make it work? It is going to be Casey O'Gorman. So Casey O'Gorman up into P1. Marco Morelli losing ground down into P4 as things stand. Is he going to lose even more positions on the run to turn 4? If you mess up turn 1, you're affecting your drive all the way towards turn 4. Brian Uriarte now looking up the inside, but he's got company in the form of Joel Esteban. Joel Esteban up the inside of the 51. So Esteban up into second and looking to attack on Casey O'Gorman.
We see this from Esteban all the time, perhaps out of position compared to race pace after qualifying, but when it comes to races, he's one of the quickest riders out there. Will always be fighting for the podium. Now in second, looking to get the run on O'Gorman heading into turn 8 or 7 and 8, but not quite close enough, and that would be a very tricky move to pull off in any case.
Yeah, it'll be a very tricky move to actually make it work. Of course, this corner here, turn 9, super tricky as well. It flattens out a little bit. It can be a slightly blind approach, especially when you've got this many riders ahead of you, but you can just see the group behind with the likes of Evan Belford just at the back of that as a few more moves get made into turn 10. And well, Marco Morelli lost quite a few positions on the run to turn 1, but since then things have settled out, and it seems like he's got his eye on Brian Iriarte as things stand in this final sector.
He does, yeah. Once you get past that turn 1, you can sort of hold position through turns 2, 3, 4, and then defend into 5, and then things can settle down. Esteban looked like he was having a move at O'Gorman through the final corner. Obviously, we've seen plenty of moves there in the past, very sensational moves. O'Gorman leading, and he was half a tenth across the line, so it's going to be a big group of riders heading into turn 1. Iriarte taking the conventional racing line. Looks like he will move into P1.
4 or 5 wide on the run to turn 1. They're into the braking zone, but what a great move that was from Brian Iriarte. You can see those some of the battles behind Dodo Boggio. Another rider had a difficult outing over at Misano, but he's continuing to battle. This is just for the final couple of spots outside of the top 10 for P12. But just see Adrian Crusades, number 10, also battling away. He's third in this group, and well, he's dropped back down to Junior GP. Slightly less power for him to play with, but certainly this is going to be some key data for next season.
Key data for next season as he moves into Moto 3. Just see a move there through the final corner. We've got a yellow flag at turn 4, so that's behind this group, and just trying to see who it is.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens there. We'll wait and see if any graphic pops up with that one. But Brian Iriarte continues to lead the charge with this one, as we see Ramostoffer actually dropping down our timing screens. But let's have a look at the live championship standings. As things stand, it would be a 72-point advantage. That would not be enough to wrap up the title in race 1. However, it would give them a very, very comfortable advantage with over 20 points in play to play with in race 2.
It would be a very comfortable advantage into race 2 as it stands. Obviously, with Iriarte winning, he would rely on riders getting ahead of Esteban to win it in race 1 as it stands. With 8 laps to go, it will not stay like this. It will be a chaotic race, as always in Junior GP, a thrilling race. We'll see Iriarte leading here, crucially, for the final lap, leading across the line out of the final corner. That could be something to keep an eye on that last lap.
Yeah, of course. The finish line actually isn't too far away from the last corner here at Barcelona now, but I was surprised that Iriarte was able to hold off the field in the run to turn 1. One of the first times we've seen any rider able to do that. Now, also Casey O'Gorman having a big moment out of seat and somehow staying on the machine. So Casey O'Gorman lost the rear and somehow stayed on. He was flipping the bike round to turn 2, but the number 67 carries on 2 wheels and doesn't lose much time.
He didn't lose much time. It was a remarkable save from the Irishman, just able to keep himself on the bike somehow. And I just say, crucially, didn't lose too much time. He's still in that lead group.
Yeah, it was P4 before that moment, and now he's down to around P7. So Casey O'Gorman, well, you have to say well done to that, staying on 2 wheels. We've seen it a couple of times this season with a few riders. No matter what happened in the race, somehow able to keep it on 2 wheels. Now let's have a look at the replay. Casey O'Gorman just losing the rear as he picks up the throttle and goes to flip it round to the right. Somehow he stays on. A massive bravo to him, but now we'll continue on at the front of things because he's not out of contention in this race. 7 laps remain, soon to be 6. And while the pace is certainly hot, Iriarte still holds the best race lap. And let's keep in mind, 2/3 distance sits around lap 9 in the race. So that is the point where you need to be in these prime positions.
2/3 race distance is where the race can be called if there is a red flag. There wouldn't be a restart. So approaching that in the next couple of laps, it will be crucial to be in those positions. Just to note, Joel Esteban now in P5. It's exactly what Iriarte needed to claim the title. Obviously, other riders ahead, it will change the championship picture. Can he defend now, heading into turn 1 like he did on the last lap? It is a big group of riders. As we saw, Casey O'Gorman still in contention. Morelli under braking. Is he going to make the move? No, he decides to stay behind Iriarte.
Casey O'Gorman in P3 now. Will he be able to get through this time nice and clean? Yes, he does. And now looks to attack on Marco Morelli. So Casey O'Gorman, he's regained his composure and now is on the attack, on the push. With 6 laps to go. Still a massive group forming here. Jesus Rios down the inside, somehow taking 2 for the price of 1. So Jesus Rios storming into second position, and now setting sights on Brian Uriarte. No one's really got in front of him in the past couple of laps. And, well, is that either tactical, or is it a case that perhaps nobody can get in front of him? I would suggest the latter, because it's Junior GP, and it's always all-out action.
It could be the latter, but also, given Uriarte's form throughout the season, is there a better person to follow for a couple of laps, just to see where he's stronger, see where you can make the move? We know he's tricky to pass. We know he is going to fight for the victory, for the championship in this case, obviously. But maybe just following him a little bit, just to see where it's possible to pass him. O'Gorman on the inside of Rios to move into P2. And different lines through turn 11, but Uriarte just holds on to P1.
Yeah, lines merge quite a lot into turn 10 and turn 11. Not necessarily one's better than the other, it's just how they've done their setup over the weekend. And they've had plenty of track time, certainly yesterday as well, in very similar conditions. There was more cloud today. Once again, Uriarte, a look over the shoulder. That's the second or third time we've seen that happen. We also seen a tap on the rear seat unit earlier on in the race, telling the riders to follow. So Brian Uriarte clearly just trying to get a smaller group of riders in this breakaway. On the run to turn 1, though, we head yet again 4, 5, 6 riders wide on the run to turn 1. Joel Esteban up the inside, Casey O'Gorman on the outside. He swoops round and takes position. So Casey O'Gorman in P1, what a move. And well, Brian Uriarte, he has been pushed right the way back of this one, back down to P7.
He has. This is why we didn't want to talk about the championship too much during this race, because we knew it would always be changing. 3 wide, or now 2 wide, heading into turn 4, as I think that's Esteban goes up the inside to take P1 from O'Gorman, but this is going to change over the next 5 laps completely.
And you can just see the group behind with like Evan Belfort is closing in. There's been some contact with Pratama and Jesus Rios. Both of them run wide, let Uriarte through, and now there's a slight gap as well that is formed with Dinesh and Marco Morelli. So you're going to have to think Brian Uriarte is going to want to get ahead of that and bridge that straight away, because a big, big moment there at turn 5.
It was a big moment. As you say, Uriarte will now want to get ahead of Hakim Dinesh as soon as possible. Turn 10 will be the first opportunity he has to move ahead of the number 13. Is he close enough? We look under braking as Esteban defends P1. Uriarte looks like he's got hit the number 13.
Yeah, he's made that move work. He's made it stick, or for how long. He leans on the outside, and he's made it work. So ahead of Dinesh now. Dinesh, of course, is also going to be going up to Moto3, it seems like, next season, and he had the wild card at the Malaysian GP. Sadly for him, it didn't end the way with the hope of a retirement, but still proven to be one of the most popular riders that we have on this grid.
He is, yeah, and a perfect place to make a Moto3 World Championship debut on home. So another big group of riders on the run into turn 1 as we see the reaction from Brian Uriarte's team. We're obviously waiting to see what happens under braking at turn 1. Morelli on the inside of Esteban takes P1 as Uriarte moves into P3.
Back into the podium places, but for how long? Rios on the outside, but it'll be on the inside for turn 3, and he's putting his front wheel up the inside, and he's made that one work. He's made it stick, and that just proves how aggressive you have to be in this class. A slight moment on the rear as well as he got onto the power, but Jesus Rios making that one work. So has potentially Joel Esteban. Now, in the pit box, I think it's fair to say only one word could describe down there in the 72 arc box, pit box, and that was tension. Carlos Cano also watching on there. I'm sure he'll be enjoying the action. He has a potential chance to be fighting for a championship this year too, but pure tension down there in the pit box, and for a good reason.
Very tense down in the pit box. Obviously, for the team, they'll probably want to get it wrapped up as soon as possible so that they can relax for the last couple of races. Morelli has, as he did in the early stage of the race, he's got a 4 tenths lead over Rios at the moment. Obviously, that will come down on the run into turn 10, but he's putting himself in a position where he can defend easily from any attacks.
Yeah, and right now, Marco Morelli, he is too far ahead for an attack from Rios this time around. And I'm sure this is something the rest of the group are going to be keeping an eye on to see if it's now the final push of the race. If this is the point where you forget all sort of tyre wear issues that potentially could happen, and it's just a time to go 150% out there on circuit and see how fast you can go and see how many positions you can pick up, especially on the run to turn 1.
Exactly. The run into turn 1, we've said it all race, we'll say it all day for every class. It's crucial when you're in a big group. It looked like JuniorGP was a little bit behind Rios. He maybe won't be close enough to make a move into turn 1, although I'm sure he would love to prove me wrong there. Looks like Casey O'Gorman is actually on the inside of JuniorGP, and the number 51 drops down to P4.
Yeah, slight twitch there as Esteban goes wide, allows Rico Salmela through, and for Rico Salmela, it's still not been a race of too much. You see the battle for 12 still continue on. Dojo Bojo losing a couple of positions there, and just behind this group. This is for the final couple of spots inside the top 20. Enzo Ballon in this group, so is the likes of Sullivan Moutsey. He's at P4 in this group. He had the penalty to serve, the same with Monoyane. As well, we do continue on. This is the lead group yet again. Over at turn 5, we spoke about it all race. We've seen a couple of moments. Luckily, everyone staying on 2 wheels. The likes of Evan Belford, they did bridge the gap initially, but yet they've been unable to really make the moves to get themselves involved in the mix.
He has, yeah. We did see, perhaps as the lead group were battling a lot, Belford was able to close up with a bit of extra pace, but as the battling has calmed down a little bit in the last few laps, they've extended their lead, if you like, over Belford and Mitani. Mitani has dropped down to P9, just a couple of attempts ahead of Belford. Moretti still leading into turn 10. O'Gorman and Samela teammates fighting through the left-handers.
Yeah, they'll be rubbing paint pretty soon, but luckily it's the same colour of paint for the team. As well, now heading into turn 10, this being the group behind our front runners, and then of course this massive group of riders. Enzo Ballon still taking the way of this one on the CIP Green Power Machine. 3 laps now remain. It's soon to be just 2, so heading on to the penultimate lap in a few moments. Time number 8 having a moment there as well. So now over the line, our leaders, 86 thousandths of a second separated them. But will there be a move into turn 1? Jesus Rios looked up the inside very, very briefly. Didn't think much of it, though. That clearly wasn't going to be a move in his books, as now he builds up the pace and thinks what he can do on these final 2 laps. Perhaps a dress rehearsal, or perhaps a chance just hit the front and just try and stretch the advantage and pull the pin.
Either strategy can work in Barcelona. We've seen how close it is. Championship standings at the moment. JuniorGP 55 points clear, so as it stands would not be champion in race 1. Obviously, anything can happen over the next 1.5 laps to end out this race. Morelli taking the normal racing lines, not feeling any pressure from Rios behind him at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, on the last lap, that could be a completely different story. Like Brian Uriarte, he's had pressure since he arrived to the circuit this weekend. Of course, if he doesn't wrap it up this weekend, he still will have next round in Valencia. It's 1 round to go after this one. The finale still awaits in a few weeks' time. Heading out of turn 9 now towards turn 10, and you can see the front 5 have definitely got a little bit of a gap to the likes of Pratama and Joel Esteban. So Joel Esteban, the latter half of this race, looks like he's out of contention, as the Australia Lithia riders continuing to battle out on circuit. They don't want to be fighting too much on this final lap, because that's when they're going to lose time and lose ground to the podium. And she said, Lewis, that's when they'll lose ground, especially to JuniorGP up in front as they head down through the final couple of corners. We'll keep an eye on the gaps, but it is Morelli leading ahead of Rios. Still a big gaggle of riders fighting over P17 at the moment. Yeah, and a few of these riders not able to make up maybe the ground they'd be hoping for after previously receiving the penalties. But nonetheless, it's time for the final lap of JuniorGP Race 1 here in Barcelona. Marco Morelli, he's led the last handful of laps, and he continues to lead the way on the run to turn 1. Brian Uriarte looks up the inside of Jesus Rios, and he makes that move work. Will Rios, though, come round the outside at turn 2, like we've seen earlier on? No, he will not, as Casey O'Gorman is beginning to look aggressive as well on his own teammate. And nonetheless, Rios just ahead towards out of turn 3 towards turn 4 we go now, and well, he's getting pushed off the circuit there, and Brian Uriarte holding firm, slots back into P5, and will show him yet again that the field, they're not afraid to make moves on him. They're not afraid to make moves on the championship leader at all. Is Uriarte going to respond at turn 5 on the inside on Rico Salmela? It looks like he's going to make that stick. The number 51 moves back into P3. Yeah, up into P4 for Riku Salmela, and well, proven yet again, Brian Uriarte is not afraid to get his elbows out on this final lap. We enter the final half of a lap now, and we head towards the back straight. Slipstream is going to be crucial. Still nobody showing the front wheel to Marco Morelli. You can see on the pit box for the MLAV Racing squad, they're watching on anxiously because, well, you have to say a move's going to be made in this final sector.
A move could be made in this final sector. Morelli was just under 2 tenths clear at the end of the previous sector. That gap has come down now. Rios will hope his last chance is either through the final corner or get a very good exit and take advantage of the slipstream across the line.
Jesus Rios, he's building towards a move here at Barcelona. He looks up the inside at the final corner, and he's made it work. Jesus Rios up the inside. Can he hold it all the way to the line? The number 54 does do it. We've seen it in the past. We've seen Raz Katioglu, we've seen Rossi, and now we've seen Rios. He crosses the line to take victory. As well, as Brian Uriarte, second place for him. It's showing up on our graphics. Third place going the way of Riku Salmela. And Marco Morelli, he was leading the way into the final sector, dropping back down to P4. Jesus Rios, we spoke about his moment arriving earlier on in the season. And now a second win to add to his books. 14 laps of pure Junior GP drama. Jesus Rios, he's pulled off what many called the impossible a few years back until a few greats have shown them wrong and now inspired the likes of the number 54. What an overtake and what a result as well for Brian Uriarte. Second place for him, 20 points in the bag and not losing too much to his championship rivals this year. In prime position, you would say, for later on this afternoon for race 2, if you can just keep it on 2 wheels. So Jesus Rios now, thumbs up, round of applause from the marshals. And greatly so. You see the team appreciates that one. They're going to be celebrating, I think, all the way until race 2 this afternoon. Uriarte still holding on to the fastest lap at the end of the race. But what a second position. He now sits on 179 points. But of course, he'll have to wait till race 2 this afternoon for his hopes to be crowned champion. Now, 66 points the gap sits at. A wave to the fans in the grandstands. Marco Morelli now inside the top 3 in the championship standings. Ahead now of the likes of Casey O'Gorman and Riku Salmela. Riku Salmela still in second, but he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, you would say, if he wants to hope to fight for the win. So heading into Parc Fermé is going to be our top 3, and then we'll hear